At that time, and I'm talking now of 1950, I did meet a number of other musicians, one or two of whom became great friends, thinking of G. N. Balasubramaniam. And in 1953 to 4, I had the great honour of being introduced to M.S. Subbulakshmi, and somewhat, well, you asked for stories about musicians. I think I better stick to one particular story. And that, since we've mentioned MS, who was a dear, she was one of the nicest people you could imagine. To begin with, she was totally without ego. Oh. And for such a distinguished person, very, very humble, very unassuming, and she really was, to know her was both a privilege and a real pleasure, and I would pay a tribute to MS any time. And of course she made Carnatic music not only part of all India heritage, but a world heritage. She put it on the map. She came and performed at the Edinburgh Festival in 1963, which I remember very well. She came through the agency of the Queen's cousin, Lord Harwood, and she electrified everybody here. And one of the delights is having a picture of her with our eldest son, who was then about 8 or so when she came. And we've got a picture of the two of them together, taken in England. Okay. But the story does relate to her indirectly, that she had a great violinist called Tiruvalankara Sundaresha Iyer, very tall gentleman, who was extremely nice, a really, really nice chap. But like a number of, particularly of men among musicians, he had, shall we say, a histrionic talent as well. I'm thinking there, when I said more than one, Bhimsen Joshi, you see, is another one, who wonderful gesticulations and faces and all the rest of it, you see. Now, Sundaresh Iyer was MS's violinist. Dear Wendy was 19 when she came out to India with me. We attended the Music Academy. Right. I was, what, 26? I had to put her behind a pillar. We were invited onto the dais at the Music Academy conference and at MS's concert. I had to put dear Wendy behind a pillar so that she couldn't see the face of Tiruvalankara Sundaresha Iyer, because he was making such faces. And of course she wanted to giggle. And if she wanted to giggle, then what about me? Okay? So this was the thing. And all passed off happily. Some months later, we had been invited by another family, very dear friends of ours, Leela Gopalan. Her husband had been Press Trust of India, and of course they both passed away some years ago. They invited me to their village, a place called Bhaskara Rajapuram, near Kumbakonam. Now Bhaskara Rajapuram is also near Tiruvalankara. Sundaresha Iyer was in his house at that time. He was in station, as we say. Sent for me, sent for us, invited us to his house. So we went to Tiruvalankara. He sat me down and gave coffee and all the usual upacharam, you know. He said, I want you to sing for me. So, you know, what a privilege to be asked by such a one. Yeah. But then, Sunday, I was as close to him as I'm sitting to you now. Yeah. Supposing he starts making these faces while I'm singing, you see. You're not saying no. And so I really was worried. Do you know, cross my heart, he didn't make a single face. He was perfectly calm and collected. No histrionics whatever. And I then realized that this is part of the presentation. It goes with the territory, as it were. That when they perform, you see, they do like perhaps to, I don't know what one says for it really, give some facial, visual expression as well as a purely musical one. Right. That taught me quite a lesson, but I do have to say that I was a bit worried at first. That's probably enough about that sort of interaction. But I was very lucky in that same year that Wendy and I were there, in that I was able to go to the Music Academy and study under Mudikondan Venkatarama Iyer, who, if you like, that Chittor was one of my gurus, Mudikondan was the other. Okay. And he was a wonderful teacher, absolutely wonderful, and a great his Talanyanam was immense. He's the only person that I can think of who knew the Simhanandana Tala, I think it's Varnam, having 128 aksharas in the Tala. And he performed that. I don't know of anybody else. I'm not saying that there aren't any other musicians. Mudikondan Venkatarama could and did. Another very dear friend in music is the violinist Lalguni Jayaraman, whom I met here, and there, if you like, one more musician story. This doesn't really involve me particularly, thank goodness. And came here, I can't remember which year, but I would think it might be 67 or 68, when he was therefore quite a young man still. Now he came along with Palgat Mani Iyer, who was many years his senior, brackets on, Mridangam. Because of the seniority, the concerts were billed as Palgat Mani Iyer, accompanied by Lalguni Jayaraman. Young man, wanting to go out, wanting to see this, wanting to do that. Palgat Mani Iyer was content to stay in his hotel room practicing. He didn't want to go anywhere, he didn't want to see anything. He was happy only to perform and then get on the plane and go back to India. And the transformation, Lalguni Jayaraman, you couldn't believe. The minute Palgat Mani Iyer went, and he therefore could assert himself, off he went. Madame Tussauds, Tower of London, for all I know, Stratford-on-Avon, the whole lot. But he couldn't do anything because of the seniority problem as long as Palgat Mani Iyer was here. And he was like a cork out of a bottle the minute that gentleman went back home.